because you were black, there were places that you and your family could not live.
That's right. And there were restaurants we couldn't go to, you know, but when you came downtown, there was only one restaurant that served everyone. That was Clifton's Cafeteria. So when we came to dinner and downtown, we would go to Clifton's Cafeteria. We could not eat in the department store at the tea room, you know, or other places like that. We went to the Chinese restaurants for dinner when we wanted to have special dinners. So it was a matter that our life was very pleasant, but it was a segregated society in terms of many things as far as public accommodations.
So, as for instance, you mentioned restaurants. There are certain restaurants you couldn't go into.
Right. You could go to any theater.
You could go to.
Right.
Right. What other kind of and obviously there were restrictions on where you could live.
That's right. Mm-hmm.
And any other kinds of restrictions that you would face as
none that I was aware of at that time. Later, when I got older, as I got out and I was in high school and college, I then became aware of other kinds of restrictions.
Such as?
Well, I think the most difficult one that I remember was when I went to UCLA, and I was an AKA. We all got invitations to a dance studio called Velez and Yolanda. So a group of us decided we would go to this special sorority invitation to this dance studio where I guess they were going to give you dance lessons and some of these things. We got there, and they said, oh, there must be some mistake. And so they looked at the invitation and said, oh, yes, you did get this, but would you come in the office? So I think it was about 6 of us. We went into the office, and they said, well, you know, we're very sorry, but we don't serve blacks here at this studio. Even though we're having this for sororities, we never knew there would be any blacks coming. So I did sue, but I lost.
We were talking about the forms of segregation that you became aware of. So you were saying that there were in the stores, for instance, you could try things on. Right. You couldn't eat in the restaurant in the store.
Right.
And there were certain jobs that were restricted.
Right. I can remember when I was in high school, where they would send you out for jobs. I was sent to a department store for a job from my high school. And when I got there, they told me that they did not hire blacks in that store. Now, there were other stores that did hire blacks. There were stores that were maybe small stores that were not downtown. But the downtown stores would hire elevator operators, maids, but they did not hire black salespeople when I was growing up.
And you were aware of those kinds of restrictions, that they existed as you were growing up?
Only when I went down to apply for a job. I wasn't aware during all of the time that I was growing up.
Your parents never said
They weren't aware of it, probably.
Really?
They probably weren't aware.
So, because sometimes you hear about parents at a certain point when they were raising a black child in this country years ago, they'd begin to explain to them the kinds of problems that they might run into because of their race in order to protect them. So they'd say, don't go to this part of the city, or you have to understand that you're not going to be able to do X, Y, and Z. Your parents never
No.
talked to you about those kinds of limitations?
No. In fact, I remember one of my early experiences. I was an officer in the high school, vice president student body, and it was a student body where there was mostly white. There were 2 of us who were in this honor society. So the honor society was going on a place called Pops Willow Lake. They were going on Saturday to this recreation facility. I had heard about it. I'd never been, but I had heard about it, and I just had never been there. So we were to go to this recreation facility, and we were to meet out in front of the school. When we got there, and I didn't even know the other girl. She was a little older than I was. When I got there, I sat there, and she was sitting there. I said, "Where is everybody?" She said, "I don't know." She said, "Did you get the wrong date?" I said, "No, I couldn't have gotten the wrong date." So she said, "Well, after we sat a long time, she said, well, let's go to my house." She lived closer to school than I did. We went to her house, and her mother said, "The two of you were the only people sitting there?" And we said, "Yes." She said, "Just a second, let me get on the telephone." So she called this place and asked them if they allowed blacks to come there, or Negroes as they call it. And they said, "No, we do not." So believe me, and the vice principal had been the one who arranged this, and they had changed the time an hour early when they found out that they didn't allow Negroes to go. So on Monday morning, I was right in the vice principal's office, and she said, "Yvonne, I would never want to hurt you. I didn't want to hurt you. Why? You know I would never want to embarrass you." I said, "Well, why didn't you call me? Why would you have me sitting out in front of the school by myself?" You know, but that was probably one of my first real experiences.